Okay, kids, time to do a quick overview of the notes on the unit of forestry. Already kind of talked about this a little bit or whatever else, but why this is a big deal in the state of Wisconsin is obviously it was hugely forested at one time. Oh, dog's squeaking around here. Hey, dog. Um, in the northern half was really the forested area. The southern half, remember we talked about, was more or less part of the Great Plains, huge buffalo covered area. But northern Wisconsin had all these gigantic, incredible white pine forests. So anyway, the history of it. Come on, you stupid mouse. Why they really started looking at this is because they realized that they're starting to destroy everything and there's going to be nothing left. And they started doing research as far as what to do with it. And again, this all started because, as you can see, look at the old growth forest on the left-hand side, and what it looked like in northern Wisconsin by the turn of the century, 1911. It was pretty much extinct by 1920s. There was no more lumbering up north. And some of these pictures, it's mind-blowing the amount of lumber that was there. It's kind of like gas prices right now. There's so much of it. It's so cheap. Same with lumber back then. The house I'm living in, which a lot of you saw pictures of, built in 1902, I think cost $1,500 because it was $2,500. But anyway, lumber is extremely cheap. And in Wisconsin, it was really good physics kids because you had all kinds of snow on the ground in the wintertime, and it's easy to move these logs around. And guys would farm in the summer and go up north and lumber in the winter. And some of the biggest log jams in world history, this one up was in St. Croix. It took them, I think, months to bust open this log jam. And what they used to do with it a lot of times was they'd float it down the river. And again, this is through the dells right here. These are all cut boards from northern Wisconsin that they actually they would hammer them together with wooden pegs. And so you'd have holes in the boards from wooden pegs, which actually my shed has a whole bunch of these boards in it with the wooden holes in them. Came down and they'd disassemble the raft and sell the lumber down like Sauk City and wherever else and sell to everybody else. Again, evidence of how much wood there was at one time. This is one of the largest granaries in the world. If I remember, it was incredibly. It took, what did it say up here? I don't know, 550 acres of forest just to build this one granary. And the lumber, because it's all more or less no longer with us. Here's the inside of the granary. They're taking it apart and using it for flooring because that wood is all extinct. And it's absolutely gorgeous old lumber. And they don't use the granary anymore. All the old barns. I think this is the one in Mesa or no, Spring Green. It's a wedding barn or whatever else. But at one time, this is why Wisconsin had dairy industry, because they could make all these barns out of that white pine. That's my project for the summer, is to move one of these onto my property and block out the neighbor's view of my place. So anyway, all made of white pine from northern Wisconsin. And anyway, all of it came to an idea of the science of silviculture. And so there's so many things because they realized, okay, they devastated this old growth forest. We need to get it back and start doing something with it. And so they started really doing research as to how to keep forests working. And the big thing is in all these factors right here that really affect the forest structure. And we'll tie these in. I'll do a little video of the valley I live in. I think I'm going to do that today or tomorrow. It's not so freaking cold outside, about what these factors have to do with forest growth. The biggest thing is obviously sunlight, because it takes away the water in the ground. It gives light to the trees, increases temperature. And so solar radiation is a huge thing. Temperature, obviously, because of solar radiation, but you go up to areas and you get the boreal forest, you get these really short trees because it's so stinking cold. They only got a short growing season, so that's a huge part of it. And water, obviously, the sunlight's going to affect how much water is there, so is temperature. We got all kinds of issues with water, and then it creating its own biomass. So the soils are all influenced by the previous factors. So if you take water and sunlight out of the equation, building up of soil in the ground is really, really difficult. And then acidity, you get certain trees can handle acidity. God, shut up! Nobody's even here. Anyway, big thing is you got to have this going on. Is you get all that litter on the floor building up something called humus, which is the nice black dirt. If you want to make a really good flower garden, you take the dirt out of a forest and you use that for building or making your flower, because the humus built up from decomposition of leaves and everything else, and the moisture's got to be there to do that. And it all turns into productivity, meaning that how much, not meaning for us to cut down, but how much is growing in an area because of all the different factors going together. Now, what's really kind of cool, these are the big things I'm after here with this unit, is having to do with succession. And what that means is that forest will go through succession over time until something stable shows up. Now, in Wisconsin, that stable community was what they called an oak savanna prairie, where huge amounts of, if you remember, the bur oaks, the old soldiers of the prairie, and huge amounts of prairie everywhere. The entire southern state was with that. Hardly any trees. The trees you see here should not be here. But that stayed like that because, if you remember from the reading from Leopold, it had to do with the fires coming through all the time, and the bur oaks could handle the fires, and everything else was burned off. And you had that stable community. And when it changes from one to the next, it's called succession. And you get something called primary succession, where in primary succession, you start with nothing but rocks. So, for example, my wife's home, I gotta shut the door. You could have a parking lot in front of school where, like in this picture, you get lichen and mosses to grow. Then you start building up organic matter on that hard surface. That organic matter then catches seeds, builds up more organic matter. You get the humus built up because you have moisture, whatever else. If you left our parking lot at school for long enough, you're going to get a situation where you can have an old growth forest eventually. So, yeah, you could do that. Just look at the Hawaiian Islands, a perfect example. You start off with volcanic ash, and boom, you've got the most lush, luxurious, whatever environment anywhere. Why is my dog barking? For the love of God, it's my wife. And the other one you could have is what they call hydroarc, or water areas, where there's an open area or a water area where there's no life in it at all, and you get this situation. And it's the same basic idea. It fills in organic matter, and you get this growth. Okay? And like I said, this is the one we talked about, is xerarch. So you got the hydroarc, which is the water. Here you can have, this is our parking lot at school, like I talked about. And then you can also have this. Okay, here's an example of, this is right across from Prairie du Sac at Sauk City in Wisconsin. This is what, I'm going through video clips. This is what it looked like, because this is a remnant, a very old picture of what it used to look like before, people stopped the fires from going through. And, if you take a look, here is that old prairie, all the way, oak savanna. I think that's, yeah. That oak savanna went all the way through here. And you can see all the way to the northern Wisconsin there. This is where the old growth forest was. But we stopped the fire from happening. And we had tons of animals go through grazing. Okay, here's another picture, a more modern view of what that looked like. And what this slide is all about is, this is a picture taken, somebody painted, of the area where the Black Hawk of the war took place, Battle of Wisconsin Heights. This is the Wisconsin River. This is supposedly looking down where Sauk City would actually be. I don't know, that's a little off here and whatever else. But somebody painted this, and this is what it used to look like when they first got here. So these rolling hills with oak, and then the prairie. And all of that has changed into succession, or the succession has changed into the forest we have right now. Very common with forestry. They claim that Wisconsin in 200 years is going to be nothing but a maple forest, because maple can handle shade, and we stopped the fires from happening. So all these oaks are going to slowly fade out over time, and it's going to be all maple. And I'll try and show that in a video for you guys if I can get out tomorrow and not freeze. I'll try and do that. But anyway, that's basic idea. Hopefully this makes sense, and let me know if you got questions on this. We'll try and have a short little quiz on the basics of this stuff on Friday. Okay.